This episode is brought to you by the shows of the You Run Podcast Network, all available at yourunpodcast.com. Whether it's true crime or film reviews, even TV series deep dives, the You Run Podcast Network has you covered. So go and check out yourunpodcast.com today. Well, it was bound to happen at some point, and we asked for it. We asked for the worst of the worst.
Yes.
They didn't disappoint us, did they?
No. Never.
Well,
They never disappoint us, and I still don't know if I find him the worst of the worst. He's definitely in that like ball pit of he's fucking atrocious.
Yeah. Should we get into him and see what we have to say? Yeah.
Heather's raging, old news she screams. The new word chases are all that she dreams. We dive into cases both weird and grim, from Zodiac ciphers to Tiger King's whim. We're You Run Podcast, the oddball pair. We're pretty damn good to be fair. You Run Podcast, new true crime. Heather's ranting, Scott's in denial. From Manson's madness to Tupac's case, we're serving up crime with a comical grace. We're digging up dirt with a weekend and nod. You Run Podcast, approved by God. Probably not.
Hello, welcome to the You Run Podcast True Crime, approved by God, probably not. My name's Scott.
And I'm Heather. Yes, Jesus likes us. It's fine.
Yeah, I think he does. I don't know how his dad feels, but Jesus loves us.
Oh yeah, Jesus and God. I'm sorry, guys. Are there two?
We are a true crime podcast. We are incredibly opinionated. We're not like all the other true crime podcasts that you'll hear that will just give you all the facts with some music behind them. We actually discuss the cases. We have our own opinions, our own theories. You can get involved as well. You can get in touch by sending us an email, yourunpodcast@gmail.com, or by sending us a voice note. You can do that on Instagram and X. Just go to where you send a DM, hold the microphone button down, speak, and we'll play that on the air. This episode is one we asked for. So we discussed on the last episode that we were going to put out kind of a collection of all the cases that I would not want to cover. Like when we were putting it together, I'm looking going, no, we'll talk about that. Don't want to talk about that. And like this was up there as one of the ones that I'm like, absolutely not. And we got it. But after going through it, it's not very often we get a case that I read through it and I doubted that it could be real. It's so insane. It's like it's been written as a script, as a screenplay. Yeah. It's so extreme and so wild in all of its facts that I'm like, this is like every bit of it's crazy from the start.
It feels scripted, right? It feels scripted and it feels very like in order. It's organized. If you could say like serial killers are organized, they're not exactly known for their organizational skills because that's, they end up getting caught. But this fellow was, there's a coldness there. Are you acting this part out? Because how can anyone be that way? It's insane. It really is.
It's packed with the most horrific acts against men, women, and children, completely indiscriminate of everyone. There's a complete escape from law enforcement, a planned comeback that would ultimately lead to his arrest many, many years later. This one's going to be a two-parter, without a doubt. Today, we are looking at Dennis Rader, who you'll probably better know as BTK.
Good afternoon. This morning, Cake TV was contacted by the person who police say they believe murdered 4 members of the Joseph Otero family in January of 1974.
The communication came in the form of a 2-page typewritten letter addressed to KAKE Channel 10. It was signed with the initials BTK.
Dennis Rader, otherwise known as BTK, is a serial killer who was active from 1974 to 1991, claiming the lives of 10 victims. Compelled by sexual fantasies of control and bondage, Dennis Rader would restrain his victims using tape and rope. He would then suffocate or strangle his victims using similar methods. During his trial, he showed no remorse for his actions. He also had an obsession with detective magazines that often depicted scenes of violence against women, with women being restrained or even beaten. This led Dennis to create his own illustrations of things that he wanted to do as a way to act out his fantasies. BTK will be one of the toughest cases we have ever covered. Joseph Otero, Julie Otero, Josephine Otero, Joseph Otero Jr., Catherine Bright, Shirley Vian, Nancy Fox, Marlene Hedge, Vicky Wordle, Dolores Davis. These are his victims.
I confronted her, told her there I had a problem, sexual problems, that I would have to tie her up and have sex with her. She was a little upset. We talked for a while. She smoked a cigarette. While we smoked a cigarette, I went through her purse, identifying some stuff. And she finally said, well, let's get this over with so I can go call the police. I said, okay. And then I got on top of her. I took the belt and then strangled her with the belt at that time.
That's okay. Before we get started, because I've seen these clips, I've seen so many of these documentaries, and he's on other documentaries that include other serial killers. But yeah, the way that he describes the altercation between the two, and that he's just like, yeah, she smoked a cigarette, like, it's whatever, man. I let her smoke a cigarette. And then she tells him, oh, I want to, so after this is done, I'll call the cops, which, you know, like, ugh, why say that? But I mean, it's not her fault. But then it's just like, he's like, yeah, but you know, I fucking strangled her after that. And it's just like, how can you, I don't know how I would have felt in that situation, knowing that you're going to die.
Yeah,
you're not gonna be left alive.
So I watched the full courtroom confession of Dennis Rader, and we spoke about it before we come on air, but it blew my mind at just how blasé he was about everything. Yeah. He's like, yeah, I done this. Yeah, I done that. Yeah. And like, you can hear like family members in the background of the courtroom sobbing, and he could not give two shits. He's like, yeah, well, I killed her. It's awful, man.
He's got, if you want to ever call someone sociopathic, he is like what you look at in a textbook, right? And you see a fucking picture of Dennis Rader, because like that, like I said, we'll talk about it, of course, but all these other serial killers, I'm not sure that we've had one so far that has killed women, men, and children, all the victims. We typically have, it's just women. It seems like we get these cases where it's like they hate women and they only kill women, or just men. I don't know that we've gotten any with a lot of children.
No, he's completely indiscriminate with who he kills, and we'll get into all of that. I want to highlight the fact to everyone, as you can see, we are back in our normal recording suite. After last month,
yes, we don't look like fucking scary stories to tell in a podcast because Scott was looking real CGI, like they did you wrong in the 90s.
Yeah, it was bad. We tried something else. It didn't work out. We're just digging deeper into our pockets to pay for the better streaming service. Now's a perfect time to mention that we have a shop. I love when you put you're wearing the t-shirt. Hold on, I'm going to do it. Where is it? There we go.
Yeah, it always fits. Like, I'm always off a little to the side, but it's just because of my pregnancy belly. I just like to sit more comfortable, but it always fits. But I do like the yellow. I don't think I saw the yellow shirt last time.
The yellow's been there for a while, but yeah, we have a yellow long sleeve hoodie that says I like those murder podcasts. So yeah, you can check those out at yourunpodcast.com, and any proceeds that we make there will go towards paying for the incredibly expensive subscription service to bring you this podcast. So this case is honestly like a horror movie. It's wild on so many
Yeah.
levels, from the murders, from the behavior outside, the double life that he led, his
Mhm.
super long hiatus that we'll probably cover next time, because there's just too much to fit in this one episode. In this first episode, we're going to be talking about Dennis Rader, the man outside of his secret life, and we're also going to be
Yeah.
talking through the 10 murders that he committed. In the
Mhm.
second part, we're going to talk about how he planned to do a comeback, how he was actually caught, and lots of other things that kind of all tie into that.
Yeah.
We haven't given a disclaimer on an episode for a very long time. If
Mhm.
ever an episode needed one, it's this. This episode covers discussions of mental health, descriptions of both crime scenes and events that caused them. It also contains details surrounding the murders of children and discussions around those, animal abuse,
Mhm.
sexual assault, self-harm, pretty much all the worst things you could imagine, all bundled up into one episode. So if any of those are not for you, thank you very much for listening. Check out one of our lesser horrible episodes, because this is a bad one.
Yeah, not all of our episodes include sexual assault or that type of stuff, which I get for some people that like true crime. I think if you like true crime, though, you do have to take it at its core and understand that you're going to get that too. But also, if you are a victim of any type of assault and it just bothers you, we don't want you to feel uncomfortable. So that's why Scott's like, skip it. We're letting you know we're going to talk about it. And if it's too triggering, go check out Jack the Ripper, because then you'll fall asleep.
We have 2 episodes on Jack the Ripper now, Jack the Ripper and Jack the Ripper Revisited.
And if you want a comedy true crime podcast, check out Jack the Ripper.
Dennis Rader was born in 1945 to William and Dorothea. He was the eldest of 4 sons, and he grew up in Wichita. It's reported he spent lots of time alone due to both of his parents working long hours. He graduated Wichita Heights High School and attended Kansas Wesleyan University, which is the dumbest name for a university.
I don't know.
He dropped out because he had poor grades. He then went to work in the army. He served in the military. He'd done the basic 4-year requirement in the United States Air Force from 1966 through to 1970. When he was discharged, he worked in the meat department of a supermarket. This was the same supermarket that his mum worked as a bookkeeper for. So he kind of got the in through family connections. This is also where he met his wife, Paula Dietz. In 1971, they were married, and they quickly started a family, having 2 children, Kerry and Brian. It was in 1973, Dennis went back to school, earned an associate degree in electronic engineering, followed by a bachelor degree in the administration of justice. Dennis worked for ADT Security Services from 1974 to 1988, and he was a census field operations manager from 89 to 91. He became a dog catcher. He was a member of the Christ of Lutherans Church and was elected to the church council as the head of the church council, the president, and was also a scout leader. He was well thought of in the community and in his church, and on the surface was a hard-working family man who bettered himself through education to provide for his family.
Yeah.
This is the world that Dennis Rader showed to everybody. This is what everybody saw, which is why I went through it in one hit. Like, if you knew Dennis, this is the Dennis you knew.
He was so good at masking. You want to talk about a wolf in sheep's clothing type of, analogy. He fits the mold. Like, he did it, because look at him and you're like, what? That? I mean, I know that I'm not trying to, like, we're going to talk shit about how somebody looks, but like at the same time I am, because he's a piece of shit. But he was so unconvincing to his community. So they're like, oh no. And that he worked for a security company scares my tits off, man.
Well,
like,
look, if you're in the community, this is one of the president of your church. He is the scout leader, and he works for a security firm. Like, he is the most trustworthy person that you probably know. Like, on the surface, like, without digging into him, you're like, yeah,
Insane.
he's a pretty good guy. Like, my kids go to scouts. He takes them out camping in the woods. Like, that side of
No.
it just blows my mind that this
Yeah,
was,
because he is literally living a double life. Like, that's the
yeah,
thing. Like, you have this stereotypical like family man and community man and does all that stuff, and then but he's literally a monster.
he is. We're going to kind of do that again, but we're going to add a little bit more context to it now as to some of the early warning signs and some of the things
Hmm.
that you may not have seen if you knew this Dennis Rader.
Yeah,
So we spoke of his childhood and not having much supervision. Um,
yeah.
so this is where some of the early warning signs started to show. Quick PSA. I know Heather does PSAs, but I'm doing one. Be there for your children. You all need to earn money. I get it, but shit, you need to spend time with your kids too, because if you don't, they can end up in a pretty bad mental state.
I as let me say this, as someone who did their mom worked all the time and she was not around. Yes, it's still extremely important, and it makes you as a grown up look back on your childhood and be like, I don't remember playing with my mom. Like, I don't remember any because it didn't happen. Um, so yeah, like leaving kids alone for that amount of time can cause some trauma. But I'm not
Yeah,
a serial killer, but I'm just saying, I think then my mom had to work, and at the
yeah.
time,
And I
it just
get it,
worked
but
out that way.
always carve a little bit of time out for your kids. And
Well, talk to
this,
your children, talk to them. Don't
yeah,
don't abandon them just because you need to work is what you're saying. I mean, it's like,
yeah.
yeah, obviously you have to work, but
Because Dennis harbored fantasies about trapping and torturing women.
mhm,
He would act out his fantasies through voyeurism.
yep.
You'll do also take part in autoerotic asphyxiation, which I had to Google what that was. It's
I
basically
knew.
of course you did. um, he would also dress in ladies' clothing, and he would spy
Yeah.
on his female neighbours, dressed in the
Hmm.
clothing, masturbating in
Hmm.
underwear that he'd stolen from their lines, with bindings around his neck. Um, he also exhibited zoo sadism. Again, I had to Google what that was. So, this is by his own admission. He would regularly capture, torture, hang, and kill
Yeah.
small animals for his sexual gratification.
Yeah. So they put it in fancy terms for you. But yes, I knew what that meant as well, because knowing that he did all this, he was a sexually charged killer.
Yeah,
That's what motivated him to kill these people. Now, him killing the children and the father, I don't know about that being sexual because he did not do anything sexual to the man or the children. But it doesn't matter because that was the release of him. That's why he was doing all that stuff. And then killing animals. Just so you guys know, my PSA, killing animals is always a warning sign of something. Now, it does not indicate serial killer, but it is sociopathic, antisocial personality. There's something going on with your child. It's not cute. It's not funny. If your child kills a small animal, get them help immediately.
yeah, yeah. Also, his employment history is incredibly worrying. So, he worked for ADT, a security
Yeah.
install firm. Um, Many of the alarms he installed while he worked for ADT were in response to residents wanting to be protected for the then at large BTK.
BTK. Yeah, I know.
So he's rocking up at someone's house and they're going, oh, this BTK guy, he's terrified. We want the best alarm system ever. And he's like, yeah, no worries. Like, just that itself, like, people had BTK in their home installing alarms to protect them from him. That's just,
From him.
yeah, like that is straight out of a movie. That's straight out of a film. Like that, you
Yeah,
couldn't write
no,
that.
it's nuts. Like, you can't. There's not a lot more you can say about it because he was literally terrorizing his town, but he looked like the hero, right? He was just this good man that was helping the town out.
Even his education, what he learned at university in criminal procedures, ultimately kept him out of handcuffs until the mid 2000s.
Mhm.
Again,
Yeah.
insane. We're going to start off with his first murder.
Okay.
So the first murders committed by Dennis Rader. Also, you'll notice in this episode I'm calling him Dennis or Dennis Rader because I refuse to call him BTK because it's a name he gave himself. And fuck you, you don't get to name yourself after you do shit like this.
Yeah, it's very rare that a serial killer actually gives them that pseudo name.
Yeah.
Like he gave himself the name.
Yeah. Like,
so is that not egotistical as fuck? Like you gave your own self. It's not like the world gave him this name.
No, he named
He did
himself.
it because that's how he murdered his victims. That's why. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's scary.
It's bad. On the 15th of January 1974, Joseph and Julia and their two youngest children, Joey 9 and Josie 11, were attacked and killed in their home.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm about to describe is upsetting and it made me mad. And this is the first case I've ever read something where I'm like, I read this first bit and then I literally went all the way through the investigation to the case close because I wanted to know if this guy got the death penalty and he didn't. We'll talk about that next time. But oh man, I was so angry. If anyone deserved the death penalty, it was Dennis Rader.
He does, but as you know, in the U.S. justice system, they don't ever get fried.
No.
Or that sounds raunchy, but like they literally sit on death row, Scott, for until they're dead. Like they die of natural causes. It wasn't like Ted Bundy would be one example, of course, others, but like that we've done that he did actually was killed, executed.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen. Like he just got a lot of life sentences. You'll find out in episode 2.
Yeah. Dennis arrived early at the home and he cut the phone lines. The house was locked up until Joey, the youngest son, opened the door to let the family dog out. And this is how Dennis got into the home. At gunpoint, he held the family on the floor of the living room before making the move to the master bedroom where he bound them. Joseph and Joey were positioned on the floor with Josie and her mum tied on the bed. Joseph, the dad, had a bag secured over his head with a rope round it, but he chewed through the bag. This led Dennis to put another bag over his head, which ultimately led to Joseph suffocating and dying.
Yeah.
He then strangled Julie, but then was surprised when she woke back up. In his own words, she was pretty upset with what was going on and asked me to save her son, so I took the bag off his head. He then strangled her again, killing her. Like, how could you say she was pretty upset? No shit, she was pretty upset. The fuck?
It's that coldness like we've seen in the interviews.
Yeah.
To him, it was just like, okay, well, yeah, she's upset that I'm killing her, but like, what's the big deal? That's how I think his mentality. Plus, he seemed like something. Obviously, there is something severely mentally wrong with him, but I think there was something else. If you just look at his mannerisms when he speaks, and he's kind of eyes, there's something like he's not. There's something else going on.
Yeah.
Besides being a sociopath.
Just so everyone knows, I'm going to get quite riled up on this episode. This guy pisses me off. Yeah. He turned his attention back to Joey, placing another bag and 2 T-shirts on his head. He sat on the bed and watched him thrash and tried to breathe until he died. After Joey had died, he led Josie to the basement where he hung her by a noose on a pipe, causing her death by asphyxiation. Police later found semen near Josie's partly clothed body. He also wrote a letter describing the murders in graphic detail, and he hid it in an engineering book in the local library. This was not found until October of that year.
Yeah.
Now, this is possibly one of the hardest murders for me to process in this case because of the involvement in young children. Nothing of what comes next is any better, but it doesn't get any worse. So if you've got through this first bit, you're going to be okay through the rest. Like
Yes. Yes.
this one for me is the absolute worst because it to take the life of an adult, that adult has got a fighting chance. They can
Mhm.
put up a fight, they can scream. We're adults, like you've got
Yeah.
a decent chance of fighting back. But a child, like a 9-year-old and 11-year-old, don't stand a
Yeah.
hope, and it's so
Mm.
cruel,
And there was
cruel.
there was no sense. There was no sense in killing them or anyone. But if you think about it, you know why he did it, because they would have went to the authorities. They could identify him. So it was just one of those things where it's like wrong place at the wrong time, and it makes me wonder why they weren't in school. Correct, because they are
Yeah,
school age.
yes, they are. Yeah, I don't know why they're not. I'll
We
find
don't know.
out.
They don't ever. Well, yeah, maybe, but we just never see that. In when you read about it, doing research, it's not like it says, "Oh, they were sick," or "We had a family day," because there is another child that we need to bring up too that did survive.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So there was I
yeah.
can't remember how old he was, the 13 or 14.
Uh, let's see. He's 60. He's in his 60s now.
Yeah, but
Somewhere
he
between,
was
let's just say somewhere between 15 and 16. Yeah, he was like a teenager. Like he wasn't like an adult yet, but he wasn't a little child. So we're just going to go with mid teens because
yeah,
I'm not sure it indicated his age, but he's in his 60s now, like in
yeah,
his
and
mid 60s.
he was the one that come back and found his house like this, which again is
Yeah.
horrific. We're going to take a quick break before we go through the rest of the things that Dennis done. So
Yep.
we'll see you in a second. When you finish this episode, why not head over to yourunpodcast.com and see what else we have available for you. With incredible shows like Movies for Days, hosted by Newman, this is your non-pretentious, easy access movie review show, covering all genres, be it horror, action, romantic comedy. Newman and Movies for Day has everything you could possibly need. And why not check out You Gonna Eat That Crust podcast, hosted by Seamus, Ryan and Greg. This incredible podcast covers everything, from games to movies to what they've done this week. This is three friends who've known each other from high school, just saying it as it is every single episode. Now these and many more incredible shows all available at yourunpodcast.com, so don't miss out. Go and check out our website today. So make sure you go to yourunpodcast.com. Check out all of the other shows on the network. There's so many good shows there. While you're there, buy a t-shirt with Heather's face on it so we can
I
afford
need
to
to
keep
have one
podcasting.
of my pregnant self in case you are into that. I hear that some people think like it's a fetish, like they like pregnant women, which everybody has a thing. But I'm
So,
like,
I mean, if you want to send me photographs of your pregnant belly, I'll put them on a t-shirt. Like
I'll do
if,
a full body. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
not just of my pregnant belly. We're not that kind of podcast, but like honestly, yeah, I just think it's funny because my Stephen was talking about that the other day. It's like,
yeah, like if we're
you're just
catering
so
to people,
glowing, and I'm like, bitch, I
like
feel like I'm on fire.
if we're catering to people's fetishes now, I need a full body shot of you pregnant.
There we go.
Like, some photos of your feet. We'll stick it all on t-shirts. We'll make a fortune.
I just got a pedicure, so that'd be perfect.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
On the 4th of April, Dennis would strike again at the home of Catherine Bright, who was 21. On entry, he was startled. He found her brother, Kevin, who was 19, was also there. And this made him more prepared moving forward, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
He, at gunpoint again, made Kevin restrain his sister before moving them from the living room to the bedroom. Once in the bedroom, Dennis would strangle Catherine, adding what I can only describe as the horrific touch of every time she struggled, he would stab her. He stabbed her 3 times in the back and the abdomen while he strangled her as she struggled. Kevin was also strangled and shot in the head. Miraculously, Kevin survived this attack by playing dead.
He did.
Kevin is the only sort of known survivor that BTK actually got his hands on. Which,
yeah, physically, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
He's the only survivor that BTK actually got hold of that walked away. In that scenario, I don't know the survivor's guilt for that must be horrific.
Well, that too, and the fact that Dennis Rader brought a knife and he
Yeah.
brought guns. So you're almost defenseless even if you try to fight back because I mean he shot him like you said twice. I think it was 2 times in the head or he got shot and it's just like, well, you already think you're going to die. A lot of people do not survive that. And the fact that he stabbed the sister, it's almost like, what do you do? I mean, could you have fought him off? You can't sit there. Nobody should say, well, he should have fought him off
No.
because you don't know what you would do in that situation. And he was tied up and things like that. So
Yeah, it's fight or flight response. I think the way I'm
yeah.
wired, and every time I've been in a scenario where it's like I'm in trouble here, my response has always been to fight. Whether
No,
it would be in that
me too.
scenario.
I'm very aggressive,
Yeah.
as you know, verbally, and I can be physically aggressive if needed. But yeah, no, I think it's a human instinct for us to want to fight to save our lives because we want to be alive.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
again, we don't know how to feel in that situation because, God, I can't even imagine.
No,
I don't know what I would do,
can't.
Scott. Honestly, like I say I would do this, but I don't know. I might panic. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I would do. I'd like to think I would
Mhm.
at least try, but who knows?
Yeah.
Now, Dennis did stalk and hunt his victims before he
He
attacked them.
did.
So the Otero family he selected months prior. Now, after Catherine, he did increase the amount of time that he looked at people and got their routines down so he didn't
Mhm.
get surprised by someone else being there.
Yeah.
And he put this into practice with his next kill, which was Shirley Retford, who was 25. Her body was discovered on March 17th, 1977.
Mhm.
So he followed Shirley's son home, who was 5. Shirley had sent her son to the shop because she was unwell to get some soup. It was the
Yeah.
70s. Young children went out.
Yeah. So
It's not
before anybody says anything, yes, this was a different. They were
yeah,
buying cigarettes at 5. Like
exactly that.
it was a thing. Yeah.
So Shirley had 3 children. Dennis tied them up and locked them in the bathroom. He
Mhm.
took Shirley up to the bedroom and he restrained her legs to the bedpost. He then
Mhm.
placed a bag over her head and strangled her with a rope. Dennis then come downstairs to retrieve the children to kill them, but they had escaped from a bathroom window. These children were
Man.
6 and 8. Now, at trial, Dennis stated, and I quote, "I probably would have hung the little girl had they not escaped."
I know he would have killed all of them. There ain't no probably to it. Like he
Yeah.
would have had he gotten his hey, but the fact that they're that young and they escaped, like they knew they were like, we have to get out of this situation. And you would think that a 6, 8 year old, a 5, 6, 8 year old, they would be too scared and they hear, their mother was screaming. I just can't even
No. It
fathom the terror.
No, I can't. And it doesn't
Mm-mm.
stop either. So on December the 8th, 1977, Dennis would knock on the door of Nancy Fox, who was 25.
Mhm.
When answered, he cut the phone lines and broke in to lay in wait in her kitchen. Dennis described this murder as the perfect hit, adding it was the most enjoyable kill he'd had because he had full
Mhm.
control. So Nancy was
Yeah.
strangled on her bed with a belt. And as she died, Dennis confessed the murders of the Otero family, and he'd done
Yeah.
that because he wanted to see the terror in her eyes when she realized she wouldn't survive the attack. The following day, Dennis done something I think is really strange, and he keeps on with this, but he called the local police to tell them where
Mhm.
they would find Nancy's body. And this, from here, it starts to slip into Zodiac killer territory.
Yeah. He's playing around like it's this whole like cat and mouse game and he likes the thrill of will you catch me? Probably not. It's the 70s. You're not going to get me. Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be honest. I'll be completely honest with everyone. I was honest with you before we started. I
Mhm.
knew, thankfully, I knew nothing about this case, like nothing at all. I
Yeah.
knew Dennis Rader had killed some people.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
when I started investigating, the one thing I always want to understand is the motives. And I
Mhm.
was really pissed off when I found out that his motive was basically he's a fame-hungry little asshole that wanted some
Yeah.
sort of notoriety, like he wanted to be up there with Ed Gein. Like that's what he wanted. That's why he done it. It really
Yeah, it
bugged
doesn't
me.
it doesn't make any sense, right? Because you're like, "What?" Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
knew you
really.
were gonna get to that point and be like, "This motherfucker." Like,
Yeah, like
seriously. Not that there's any good reason to kill anyone at all ever, but you're looking at it like, you just wanted to be fucking famous and you had to take
yeah,
people's lives? Yeah.
yeah. It's um Dennis also wrote a letter to KAKE, a local TV station, claiming
Yeah.
responsibility for the murders. This is where he suggested the nickname BTK. In
Mhm.
case you were curious, it stands for Bind, Torture, Kill. Um,
Yeah.
in his letter, the exact words were, since criminals do not change their MO or by nature cannot do so, I will not change mine. The code words for me will be bind them, torture them, kill them. BTK. You see, he had it
Yeah,
again.
it's a
They will be the
game.
next victim. Like he said, those letters will be on the next victim. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, because like you said, he just wanted the notoriety. He did not he also was killing because he's a sexual deviant. Like he was also killing for sexual gratification, which we don't get a lot of like with us doing these cases. I wouldn't say not all of them are sexually charged. A lot of them have
No,
been,
the only other one I
but
can
it's
think of
always a
is
mix.
Dharma. Dharma's the other one
Well,
that's
and
very similar.
Bundy
Yeah.
in a way because he was raping and killing women. Then we have the toolbox murders, which
Ugh.
was
Yeah.
horrific. Yeah, I know. We're not going to get into that, but I'm just saying, as far as like, we hated that. Well, okay, I didn't like it. Scott was like, I
Yeah.
thought he was going to go on his own murder spree because he was like, I cannot deal with this. But I would say that a lot of these killings can be sexually motivated because it seems like they have that kind of core thing in common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What got me with this is like he sent that first letter and KAKE done not a lot with it, didn't do much with it at
No,
all. So he then sent subsequent letters demanding media attention. One of the letters he said, how many people do I have to kill to get my name in the paper or some national attention?
it's just like you need to just, oh my God, I can't. I don't even
Yeah,
know what words to say of how
no.
ridiculous it is to,
And
you want to be that famous?
and the thing is, he's unhinged as well on another level
Yes.
because he claims in his letters that he claimed that he was driven by the same supernatural force as Jack the Ripper, son of
No,
Sam,
he's
and the
not.
Hillside Stranglers.
Like I told you, Scott, it's not just because he's a narcissistic or a sociopath or any of those big, big words we use on the podcast or that Heather uses all the time. Um, he
Yeah.
was extremely mentally unwell. I don't know specifically what it could be. I'm not a doctor. There was a lot more going on than just the tendency to kill.
Yeah, he also asked police acknowledge him in a hidden message, so only he knew they'd received the
Hmm.
letters.
Yeah.
Incredibly, police actually done this. So they put a subliminal message on that TV station because they know that he watched it, and it was
Hmm.
a single frame. It literally just flashes up for less than a second,
Yeah.
and it was an upside down pair of glasses that said
Hmm.
"Call Chief" written above it. So the
Hmm.
glasses were a reference to how they found Nancy Fox's body. The glasses were upside down at the crime scene.
Yeah.
Now, the police said this was an attempt to try and make him turn himself in, or if not, at least keep up communication. Um, Neither of those things happened because he never contacted the press again until the mid 2000s, and he didn't turn himself in. So
No,
complete failure.
it was just the toying with them. Like I don't think he wanted to necessarily get physically caught, but it was like
No.
he wanted to read about his killings in the paper and see that they're using BTK. BTK does it again. BTK does this. That's what he wanted. That's the notoriety that he wanted. But he wanted the anonymity too, like to be anonymous, to be this killer. But you can't. You wanted it both ways, dude. But he was just fucking with the police because he's like, fuck them. Like,
Yeah,
he didn't
he
care.
really was. I want to bring attention to someone called Anna Williams, as she's often not talked about. So Anna was Dennis's next planned victim. Now, he cut her phone lines and he broke into her house, and he sat there all night waiting for her to come home. His attempt was completely foiled, and this happened in 1979. So Anna stayed at her friend's house that night. They'd been out for drinks, and instead of going home, she stayed with a friend. He went quiet from 1979 until the 5th of May, 1985. And this is when the body of Marlene Hedge, 53, was dumped in the ditch at the side of a road. She was killed much earlier than this, which is tragic because you just don't know what happened in that time gap. So she died on the 27th of April. Dennis took her to the Christ Lutheran Church, where he photographed her in numerous bondage positions, and he stored her in the church until he was bored with her and then decided to dump her body. Like, he's escalating, but he seems to be getting more careful as he's escalating. Which I find weird, because we've seen loads of cases where killers escalate and escalate and escalate, and then they fall over, fuck up, and get caught.
They lose control, and then that's how they initially get caught, because they go on like a rampage of being sloppy or not covering their tracks enough. But we're going to get into it because there's a reason why this person.
Yeah, I've got a whole host of questions that's coming shortly. I've sent you the notes, like Heather's got.
Yes, I know. That's why I keep looking down, because I'm kind of like, let me make sure that I put my stuff down so that I wouldn't misspeak over myself. So that's why I was checking, because I was like, it's coming up and Scott's going to be asking me some shit.
So when I send the notes over to Heather does her own notes, and I send over what I've done.
You send the outline. It's our outline, basically.
Yeah. And then like at the bottom, I've got like this long section that's like, I need you to fucking answer a lot of shit.
All like in caps and stuff. Heather, tell me this shit. But we don't say that that's not part of our like outline, but it is.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
In September 1986, Dennis tricked his way into the home of Vicky Wergel, who was 28, and he pretended to be a telephone repairman. He strangled her with a pair of nylon stockings and rearranged the crime scene and took photographs of her nude body. There was another break in the murders here. Again, we're going to talk about it. From 1986 until February of 1991. This is when the body of Dolores Davis, 62, was discovered in a ditch. He'd entered her home on the 19th of January and strangled her with her own pantyhose. Thankfully, this would be the last murder committed by Dennis Rader. Okay, I need some answers for some shit that I know you can help with. I'm going to start. I'm going to start with the escalation. We've seen it so many times. A killer kills once, they kill again, then the kills get more frequent and they get more violent. And then they go from killing 1 to 2 and to start taking risks, like contacting the papers, and it always just crumbles down on top of them.
Yeah.
Why is there there's escalation in what he's doing, but he seems to be getting more efficient and more careful, as opposed to completely blowing up. Why? Why? I don't
understand.
Scott
asked me as if I talked to Dennis and I know specifically. But if you think about this, okay, this is going to be my answer. And the research that I've kind of done on it, because, again, most of these serial killers, they start out, they have their first victim, they have their second victim, they have upwards to who knows how many victims sometimes. And with each victim that passes, they tend to get a little sloppier, get a little like more insane, right?
Yeah.
They're just rage killing, and they're not covering their tracks as well. But there's a difference in the way that Dennis Rader killed. If you've seen these interviews, he was very controlled.
Yeah.
The reason why he was able to take a break and not kill for years at a time is because he could actually control his impulses. As insane as that sounds, he was able, because look, he was able to control them because he had a family. That's why no one suspected him. He was in the community, and he is a true example of a sociopath. There are not too many people, because you would look at it like, well, a serial killer, no, they're going to go crazy. They can't, their thirst for killing, it does grow, it intensifies. But with him, he had a whole family to deal with, Scott. He was like a leader in church. He was the Boy Scout stuff. He had a decent job. He was a member of the community. So it's like, no, he controlled it. That's what makes him so fucking terrifying, is that he could kill and be like, won't do this again for 5 years. And that's a level of, I don't even know what to speak on that, because like, yeah, you would think a normal person be like, no, man, I'm going to keep on killing. And if I get caught, I'm going to get caught. Not Dennis Rader. Also, I think some of it too, you have to, that he was a bit older for a serial killer.
Yeah,
I think he was a bit older. So age sometimes plays into that factor of why serial killers go cold. They go silent. Age, their own health issues, things like that, that makes them not adequate to attack another person. And maybe they go after different criteria of people, because it's like, well, if Dennis is 57, right, or something, whatever. I don't even know how old he was, to be honest, because I don't care, because he looks like a fucking freak anyways. They're like Krusty the Clown if he were a murderer. And so, you know, I have to throw in jokes. But anyways, I'm
well, if you're going to do that, I'm going to do my Krusty impression. Hold on.
Okay. This is, I think I like laugh like that now. Anyways, that's like, I have a really embarrassing laugh. But anyways, all in all said and done, at the end of the day, he was able to control these impulses. And why exactly he stopped, well, it just kind of makes sense. Now, there may have been other specific things, but again, like I said, age, health. When you have a 60-year-old serial killer, Scott, they can't really run after the 28-year-old woman maybe as easily. She could kick his ass, right? So you have to think that they have to come up with a different tactic. And again, he wasn't going to get caught. I mean, he does get, like, he gets caught.
Oh,
like, it's
he
all,
is well and
we
truly
know
caught.
who he is.
Yeah.
But in the moment, my best explanation to you is what I just said, is because he had such fucking control.
Yeah, because
most serial killers can't control their impulses. They just can't.
Well, we've seen other killers take breaks. Dahmer had breaks between his kills.
He didn't take. He did too. But he's another one that also, believe it or not, he's another one that was on the lines of being so sociopathic that he could too control his impulses. But I think that Dahmer's reasoning behind that is because he was looking for the perfect victim. He was looking for that man. He was sexually charged by this. He was homosexual, so he wanted to find a forever lover.
Yeah.
He wanted, you remember that, he wanted to control them.
Yeah.
So he had to wait. He had to wait because he wasn't going to really just go nonsensical and just kill a bunch of random people. He was looking for that perfect victim that wouldn't run away.
Yeah. And in 1991, he completely stopped. And like,
he was getting old.
The next episode, we're going to talk about what happened between 1991 and his incarceration in 2005.
Yeah, it was early. I remember seeing it on TV.
Yeah, I like, this is such a fresh case. Like, I remember this being on the news when he was caught. I remember all of this. We're also going to talk about another murder that he's accused of, and Dennis Rader's very open with, did you kill this person? He's like, yeah, I killed them. but this is one that I'm convinced he committed, and there is a reason that he will never, ever, ever confess to it. And we're going to talk about that on the next episode as well, because the reason is actually a logical reason why he wouldn't confess, but man, he definitely done it.
But it seems insane because he had no qualms about confessing and talking so matter of factly. Like, it's like if you were just telling your kid what you're going to do for the day. Hey, we're going down to the park and we're going to go eat at McDonald's or do whatever. And he was just so malice about it. There was just something so sinister behind the calmness of his demeanor. He was so calm.
Yeah, and the thing is, he is. I'm lacking a better phrase, but because I can't think of anything better to use. But he was a slick killer in regards of not being caught. He was very aware of what he was doing. He was very aware of what the police procedures were because he understood them, because he studied them. He knew what the capabilities were of the police in regards to fingerprints and DNA, and he wore gloves. And he was incredibly careful, which is why he was never caught. And had he just stopped in 1991, Dennis Rader would still be walking around neighborhoods now. He'd probably be like the senior scout
old as
leader.
fuck. Yeah, I believe he's like 79. And so again, that makes him a bit older. Most serial killers tend to be, he's like, I know you guys probably think I only know about Dahmer. No, but like he was a young guy who started young. He started young. He was literally starting when he was like a teenager, like a young adult. And then Dennis Rader had all these nasty thoughts and wanted to do all these things and sadistic things in his mind. He just didn't actually do any of this until he was like a full blown, like, I'm married, had children. Then he started killing.
And I find that really strange, like having that moment where you've got a wife, you've got kids, you've got a job, you're the scout leader, you're a member of the church. At what point, maybe he was stalking victims for years and looking at them and not carrying it out. But
no, he was. He was methodical about it. That's how he was able to slip into. Granted, the working for ADT and things like that would be to his advantage. I'm sure he knew the nooks and crannies around how to get into homes. Also, he was cutting phone lines because he knew, like, if I cut the phone line, he was so methodical. He planned every step out. So, like, if it took him a year before he picked someone, he could have picked that woman, right? The victim. But then he didn't just randomly go up to her and just kill her. It was a cat and mouse thing with that too, if you think about it, because it was like, I'm going to get her. It's just more terrifying to know that someone could be stalking you.
Yeah.
That's what he did. He trolled people, so to speak, if you want the new term for it, trolling. That's what he was doing.
Yeah. Honestly, he's one of the scariest we've come across, not because of the crimes he committed, but because of everything that went through it, because he is so well planned. He is so well controlled. He's so well aware of everything that can come down on him. He's so confident that he's not going to get caught that he contacted a TV station and went, "Where's my fucking TV coverage, assholes?"
Yeah.
Like, mind bending.
It doesn't make any sense, and you can't really make it make sense. And you have to do your own research on these cases. I always tell the listeners, we do as much as we can, and we may not give you every single little detail. There may be something that we miss, but I mean, we're not detectives. We're trying to provide you with the most accurate information that we find, and then give our opinions based upon that information that we find. So again, it's our opinion. So don't necessarily think that we're spitting, not that we're not spitting facts, but like, it's our opinion.
Oh, we are. Yeah.
Well, we are. Scott always has to say, we are. But anyways, just saying, do your own research, people. If you're into true crime, just if you want to know more, like, you can also do your own additional research.
Yeah. And on the next episode, we've got a lot packed into that. So there's a lot of stuff that, like this episode, we've specifically framed this that we've only told you about what he's done, because what comes next is so wild. Like the next bit, like Dennis Rader doesn't kill anyone else from here on out. But what happens next, I would argue, is equally as insane as what he's already done. Like it's just mental how he gets caught, and I'm saving it all till next time. So
because I have some recommendations on documentaries, movies, but of course all that'll be shared in episode 2, so stick around. Don't be fucking around and find it. Well, no, fuck around and find out, like episode 2.
Yeah, exactly.
After you listen to this, but still
but until then, Heather, take us away.
I'm going to take you away. I'm going to be taken away, Scott, because I'm so tired. My toddler doesn't sleep, as you know. You guys, I don't really know what to say. Sometimes Scott's like, take it away, Heather. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just going to ramble because that's like what I do. But honestly, you guys, we need you to stick around for episode 2. And we love you. Thank you so much for all the support. Thank you for supporting me through the absence. I have to keep saying that because, you know, being pregnant is not fun. It's the last fucking time, Scott. Don't worry. It ain't happening again. The last time. Snip, snap, snip, snap. I don't have that, but we will, fix that. But anyway, you guys, until next time, stay tuned. I need you guys to stay safe, stay spooky, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
See you later.
Heather's raging, old news she screams. The new word chases are all that she dreams. We dive into cases both weird and grim, from Zodiac ciphers to Tiger King's whim. Where you run podcast, the oddball pair. We're pretty damn good to be fair. You run podcast, true crime. Heather's ranting, Scott's in denial. From Manson's madness to Tupac's case, we're serving up crime with a comical grace. We're digging up dirt with a weekend and nod. You run podcast approved by God. Probably not. Scott's like, can we talk about movies? Heather's yelling, no, it's time to do this. We're trapped in a world of murder and gore, but hey, at least we've got podcast galore. Toolbox killers are chilling affair, but we're adding our humor to ease up. You run podcast, do true crime. Heather's ranting, Scott's in denial. From Manson's madness to Tupac's case, we're serving up crime with a comical grace. We're digging up dirt with a wink and a nod. You run podcast approved by God. Probably not. Probably not. Probably not. Probably not. Scott's like, can we talk about movies? Heather's yelling, no, it's time to do this. We're trapped in a world of murder and gore, but hey, at least we've got podcast galore. Toolbox killers are chilling affair, but we're adding our humor to ease up. You read podcast, do true crime. Heather's ranting, Scott's in denial. From Manson's madness to Tupac's case, we're serving up crime with a comical grace. We're digging up dirt with a wink and a nod. You run podcast approved by God. Probably not. Probably not. Probably not. Probably not. Probably not.